everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's Binky here today with an item that I've been actually eyeing here for about a month from when the first sneak peek came through, and that is the Urban Decay Backtalk palette. Yes. So I'm on a low buy this year. I think a lot of people are, and I think it's fantastic. I hope it's a trend that keeps on going. So I'm being really picky with what I kind of pick up this year and save myself a little cash and love the items that I already have. And so this one kind of piqued my interest. You know, every month I go through a list of things that are coming out or have recently come out and decide whether I want them or not. And this baby was high on my list. I saw the colors and I was like, this is going to be mine. And it is. Got it very quickly and have been using it for 3 days. So I kind of have a general idea of how this is working. So this isn't a first impressions. I have worn it for 3 days, so I know how this works for me. And so here we go. So the first thing that I want to show is the packaging is very thick. You know, it's a thicker package. It is the cardboard. What's interesting with the design is well, I have it upside down. I gave it away. But I guess there is no right or wrong, is there? No. So here are the 2 blushes here, and then here are the 2 highlighters here. Right here on the top, and then you have the eyeshadows. Now, I'm not necessarily a great fan of the design, and I'm going to show why. There's a mirror in the middle that comes out, leaving you these guys. So here's the mirror. It's a little bit clunky for me. You know, I mean, it's a big enough mirror to do what it needs to do, but it's just clunky, and I see this as an accident waiting to happen. I can see me putting it somewhere, dropping, shattering. So I'm not a big fan of this, the way that they designed this. You know, so here it is. This is what it looks like. You put this in the middle, ta-da, clip it up, you're ready to go. Some people may really like it. For me, I'd rather have not had a mirror. There's just really no reason for this. I find it, like I said, clunky, but that's just a personal preference. It's just not my kind of aesthetic. You may like it, so there you go. But then you have the shadows, and then you have the blushes, and then the 2 highlighters. So what I do want to point out is when I was initially seeing the pictures to this, I was really excited because I thought that this was going to be a cool tone palette, but this actually is a warm tone palette. So right there was my first disappointment because I was looking for a cool tone palette, and I'm a cool tone girl, so I've seen that the industry is starting to move towards neutral and cool palettes a little bit more. I'm not saying it's like taking over the industry, but I'm saying there are hints of that because I think they're finally hearing that we're ready to move on to some cool neutral palettes. And I think that's great. You know, there's been a few coming out, and then they'll have pops of warm, which I think is just smart. But I was really excited because as a cool tone girl, I was looking forward to finally having a cool tone palette. And so I just want to point out this is very definitely a warm palette. The other thing that I noticed when I opened this is that there is a distinct smell to it. Yes. It just has a certain scent to it that I don't have much from Urban Decay. I'm just going to flat out say that. But I've never smelled this before, so I don't know if it's the glue of putting the box together or if it's the actual shadows. But it's not going away. So if you're sensitive to scents, something in this palette is really strong with scents. And I bring this up because some people don't like it. For me, I don't much care for it. Yeah, it has a really strong scent to it that I don't, and it's not like peaches or anything like that. It's a strong odor that I'm not really a fan of. So that's the second thing that I noticed. So here we go as far as the actual product and how it performed. So like I said, I've tried this for 3 days. What I do want to point out again, if you have fair skin like me, so if you're fair with cool, you know, with the cool tone like I do, this palette is not going to be your best friend. Because what I want to point out is that these 3 colors here barely show up. I tried using these 2 on the lid, and I did a little bit on the inner corner here and then underneath to try to add a little lighter color. It barely shows up. It looks like my natural color when it's swatched. And I'll try it here, though you probably can't really see it. Here you go. And then swatch it. And the thing is, they're very, very similar. And I'll also show swatches to the side as well. But these are really similar in tone and color. And even when I prepped my eyes, they just did not show up that well. And then when you would put them on, like this, you'll see right here, I'm like wiping it on because I used my fingers because it wouldn't pick up on my brush. It fades away to almost nothing. So the more you work it, the more it starts to disappear. And that's something that I was running into over and over, and then it just wouldn't show up on my skin. And part of it is it's very close to my natural skin tone, but it's very deceptive because these colors look more like beige tones, and I hope this is showing up because I am really fair. They look more like these beige tones, but what I found is that with most of these, the more that I used them, they were more of this pinkish kind of peach color. And again, the swatches should be right here. You see that even this purple here, using this purple, it doesn't have a lot of pigment to it. And again, it's that orangey pink tone. So no matter what the combination was that I would use with this, it would always go to what I have now, this pinky peach tone. And there really was not much of a variance with it. The only exceptions are these two at the end, especially the dark one here and this one right here. They did have a little bit of a different appearance, especially this chocolate brown. They definitely broke it up. So if you're using these, even this purple here, which you think is going to give you the shock of amazing color, it doesn't. It looks very similar to the other ones in the palette. And then the only thing that breaks it up are these two, which is nice because you're going to need it. So you're going to want to put that a little bit in the corner of the corner V and then move it into your crease a little bit, unless you're not going for that look. You know, you may be wanting to go for something that's very simple. Like in the summer, I'll do that too. I'll put something briefly on my lid or briefly in my crease and then be done. You know, very easy eyeliner out the door with some mascara and a bright lipstick. You know, you just want something really easy in the summer months, especially because it's just so hot and humid out here. It's like, it's not going to stay anyway. So, you know, so that's very smart for this. But if you do want a little bit more dimension, especially this time of year, we're in winter going into spring, you may want a little bit more dimension. So these actually worked well. I would say out of all these colors, I feel like this chocolate brown and this, it's a warm brown, mid-tone brown, worked really well. The rest of these, What I will say is that the consistency on these, at least I found on the shadows specifically, were really chalky. Also, when I tried to work them, there wasn't a lot of pigment in these, so I kept having to dip in because they're really, the thing too is that there's only two colors here that are matte. Well, three colors that are matte. The lightest, which I used to prep my eye, this one right here, and then this guy right here. So these two, well, these three are the ones that would be, my fingers will stretch like that. These two right here, the one at the edge, are what you can use for crease color. Now you can use anything for a crease color, but for me, I use mattes. I know some people will use the shimmers, pearls, whatever. I personally don't, but these are the only three mattes. And this is good for prepping the eyes if you have medium skin tone to light. And then this one is a really great crease color for somebody who is medium skin tone to lighter. And this one would be really great for somebody who has, you know, deeper skin tones. So that was smart in that way. The other of these have kind of like a shimmer to them, and they don't necessarily read that way once you put them onto the eye. And also when I try to put them on, they just didn't cooperate that well. There wasn't a lot of pigment. Even these crease colors, especially this one that I used over and over and over because this worked best for the 3 days, it just kept fading, or it wouldn't even build up at first. So I had to go in and in and in to get that pigment, and then once I built it up and started building other colors around it, it started wearing away. So it really wasn't that easy to work with. Yeah. Also, as far as blendability, besides blending away, it would blend away, but then with the darker colors a little bit, I would use those and they would just stay on the edge of the eye. I would keep blending and blending and blending, and it was patchy, or it wouldn't blend effortlessly like some shadows do. It just kind of sat there. So these definitely weren't my favorite formula, you know. So then I went on, of course, I used the blushes. I'm going to be honest, I did not, oh yeah, I did use this one. I used this one day. It's a little bit too warm for me, but I went for a warmer look. I went with this one a little bit more, this purpley color, because this is actually a cool tone. You know, it's more of a neutrally cool tone. And so I did use this one a lot to offset the warm tone on my face. And, you know, they worked better. The blushes worked better. So you definitely build these up. For me, I don't necessarily feel like they blended out as well as I would like. Again, they kind of sat on the skin a little bit more than I liked. So as far as the highlighters, I did use these guys. I'm going to be honest, I did not use this one. I did swatch it. It's a little bit too peach for me. And so I kind of didn't want to go for that, so I went for this one. And I'll swatch those quickly here. There you go. So they actually, the one that was peach is actually not bad. It looks, you know, in the here it looks like, whoa, you know, but it actually goes on quite nicely, which you can see there, and those two are here. So it goes on really beautifully, actually. And what I will say is that the highlighters have a better consistency than these. So I did use these a couple times on my eyelids because they actually went on better than these. So, and the blushes are nice and soft too. So actually I find that these perform better than the actual shadows, but the blendability on the blushes was kind of The highlighters I had no problem with. You know, I'm actually wearing the this one right now, so you can see it hopefully on my cheeks here. So, you know, I did use it. It went on well. I think it works better using your fingers. What I will say, they're not the most pigmented highlighters, so you're gonna have to build them up. I did use a brush, but then I also used my fingers and it went on better with my fingers. But even using the brush, it's best to take your fingers and you know, move it around a little bit, because it just I felt like it kind of laid on the skin a little bit and didn't blend out as naturally as I would like. So it wasn't as finely milled as I would like. I actually think that these work better as eyeshadows than as highlighters. So yeah, if I had to make a choice, I would say that definitely this row was a little bit more successful than this. As far as the wear time, oh, now I have really oily skin to begin with. So if you watch my videos, you're on my channel, you know that I am one of those lucky people who has the oily eyelids. Well, I have the oily face in general. Yes, I'm blessed. So, nature's moisturizer. So, you know, I have oily skin, so I have to prep my eyes a specific way. I have a way that I do it that works really well for me, and it keeps most shadows in place. I finally kind of got it down to a science. But the true test is to see how well they last on someone with my oily lids, because eventually it's going to break through. I think it's going to happen with most people. But, you know, I'm kind of the true test on these things. And anyone with oily lids will know what I'm talking about. So these, within 2 to 3 hours, started to show the oil coming through. And for me, that's not great, because usually the way I prep my eyes, I can keep most shadows at bay to between 4 to 6 hours. These started to change in look within 2 hours, and you can see it wasn't matte anymore. It was getting that oily sheen to it, and by the 4 hour mark, 3.5, 4 hour mark, they were starting to fade away already. Which I haven't had that happen in a long time. I mean, it does happen, but it hasn't happened in a long time. And I found that it's happened with more eyeshadows from drugstore brands. I haven't had that happen with the upper end brand for a while, so I was kind of surprised. And by the 5 and 6 hour mark, it was just not, it wasn't my favorite. We'll just put it that way. It wasn't, it was fading away, and it was really oily looking, and it just did not look good. And that was at the 5 hour mark around, and I was out. You know, I tried these last night, and I was out, and I kept going into the restroom, and I'm like, you know, that's not how you want to go about it on a Saturday night. Hey, I'm looking oily, and my makeup's wearing off. I mean, the rest of it looked pretty good, but the eyeshadow was just like, wah, wah. So what do I think of the Backtalk palette? I think you all know where I'm going with this. I'm going to flat out say I'm really disappointed this is the first palette really this year. There's been a couple I've been excited about, but for the most part, this was the one that I was so excited about this year. And I was just ready to, I was like, here's my money, let's go. And it's one of those products where you're so excited about, and then the reality sets in of what it is, and it was just disappointment. The wear time wasn't great. I found the formula really difficult to work with. I'm still not even really happy with the eye look I have today. I just don't feel like it blended the way that I wanted it to, and I feel like it just stuck kind of in place, and it's not as blended as I would like. So I felt that it was difficult to work with. I felt like it didn't have a lot of pigment. I felt that it just wasn't easy to work with. And I just feel like the shimmers didn't come across shimmery at all. I feel like in the end, most of the tones ended up looking very similar, which you can see in the swatches. So it just was the same eye look. No matter what you did, it tended to look the same. And for somebody with the cool tone, it wasn't necessary, especially if you're cool tone and fair skin. I didn't find this to be the most flattering palette at all. So yeah, not great. You know, I really like this highlighter, but the rest of it just, you know, was okay. So I can't really justify the price of, I think it's $46. I'll put it to the side. I can't justify $46 on a palette where most of it just doesn't work for me. Yeah, so that is my review today. Please let me know if it was a different experience for you, because I'm really curious if it was just a me thing. But I've read some of the earlier reviews on Sephora, and some people have had the same issues as me. So I'm curious what other people think. So let me know what you think about it, or how it's worked if you picked it up, because I'm really curious if it's just a Binky thing. So yeah, that is my review today on the Backtalk Urban Decay palette that was just released. And until next time, have a fabulous day. Bye.